And I've learned to live with small things by letting them go.
Look, I didn't do anything wrong, just made a joke. We were all laughing, and I said something small about him, something everyone already guessed. It wasn't cruel, it was funny. But he didn't laugh. He just got up, left the table, and the next morning, a courier brought an envelope that ended everything I thought I controlled. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. It started as a joke. We were out with friends at the Gilded Fork, laughing, drinking, teasing each other. Someone made a comment about relationships, and I, feeling bold, said that some men just didn't measure up. I grinned, touched Julian's arm, and added that luckily I had learned to manage smaller things. The table went quiet for a heartbeat before someone forced a laugh. I laughed too, louder, pretending it was harmless. Julian didn't. He just looked at me with that calm, steady face that made everything feel worse. I told him to relax, that everyone knew I was kidding. He didn't reply. He just placed his napkin beside his plate, stood up, and said he'd cover the bill. He left before dessert arrived. My friends tried to joke about it, but I could feel the pity in their smiles. When I got home later, Julian was already packing a small bag. I asked where he was going, and he said, "Somewhere quiet." I told him he was overreacting. He said, "You don't get to laugh at someone and still call it love." Then he walked out. In the morning, I found his ring on the kitchen counter. It looked ridiculous sitting there like a piece of evidence. I called my mother, told her he'd left because of a joke. She said, "Men are so sensitive." That made me feel better for a while, but when I looked at the empty side of the bed, I felt something I hadn't planned for, silence that wouldn't leave. Julian didn't come home that week. He stayed with his mother, Elaine, and ignored every message I sent. I texted, called, even left a voice note saying I was sorry if he took it the wrong way. Still, nothing. At work, I told my co-workers the story, making it sound funny. Some laughed. One said softly that her husband would have been crushed. I said men needed thicker skin. Inside, I felt something twisting. I started spending more time at the salon, staying late to talk to clients, especially Adam, the one who always flirted and called me brutally honest. It felt nice to be admired. One night, I posted a photo with the caption, "Honesty over sensitivity," and when Adam liked it, I smiled too long at my phone. A few days later, I stopped by the house to pick up my mail. His office door was half open. On his desk lay a letter with his name beside a law firm, Porter and Reeves LLP. My stomach turned. I picked it up, read the first line, preliminary consultation for marital division. I dropped it like it burned. That evening, I called his mother. She said he didn't want to talk. I told her he was being cruel, that no real man ends a marriage over a dinner joke. She said, maybe it wasn't a joke to him. The next morning, he sent one message. "Please respect my space." I read it 3 times, realizing space was something he'd already taken long before I noticed. 2 weeks later, a friend invited us both to a birthday party. I said I'd go, certain Julian wouldn't show. I wanted to prove I wasn't ashamed. I wore a red dress that made people look twice. When I arrived, everyone was polite but distant. I could tell they'd heard the story already. I laughed too loudly, made little jokes about marriage drama, pretending I was fine. Halfway through the night, Julian walked in. Calm, clean-cut, even smiling politely. My chest tightened, but I refused to let him have the last word. When people started teasing about couples, I said, "Well, some of us already know I like to joke about size." The table went dead silent. He didn't flinch. He just looked at me and said, "And I've learned to live with small things by letting them go." He raised his glass and left it there untouched as he turned to leave. An envelope sat where his drink had been. I opened it with shaking hands, draft divorce papers, dated 2 weeks before the dinner. He'd planned this long before tonight. I wanted to tear them up, but I felt everyone watching. So I smiled, said he was dramatic, and laughed again. When I got to my car, I cried for the first time in years. I told myself I was angry, not hurt. But deep down, I knew he hadn't embarrassed me. He'd just stopped letting me use laughter to hide what I'd done. After the party, everything felt hollow. I still went to work, still smiled, but every glance felt like judgment. I told people Julian was being petty, that he couldn't handle a confident wife. I said the divorce papers were just a scare tactic. Saying it out loud made it sound almost believable. But when I went home, the air in the house felt sharp, like it knew I was lying. One afternoon, I decided to look through his office again. The door was locked now. I found the spare key and opened it. His desk was spotless, except for a row of binders labeled in his neat handwriting: expenses, messages, custody prep. My throat tightened. I opened the first one. Screenshots of my texts, notes about my social media posts, even a copy of that picture I'd captioned "Honesty over Sensitivity." Another binder had reports from Noah's school about missed pickups and behavior changes. On one page he'd written, "Emotional neglect observed." I slammed it shut, my hands shaking. He'd been documenting everything quietly, like a man preparing for trial. I told myself he was cruel, obsessive. I called my mother and said he was trying to trap me. She said maybe I'd given him too many reasons. I hung up on her. That night, I sat in his chair and stared at the binders. I realized he didn't need to yell or chase me. He'd already built his escape, one calm, quiet note at a time. The mediation was held in a small office downtown. I wore black, hoping to look serious, mature. When I walked in, Julian was already there with his lawyer. He greeted me politely, like I was a co-worker, not a wife. The mediator asked if I wanted to speak first, so I told my side. How everything had been a misunderstanding. How I was joking. How humor was my way of expressing love. I even smiled at the end. Then his lawyer opened a file. Inside were pages of records. My posts, my texts, bank statements, screenshots, and witness notes. My stomach sank. The mediator skimmed them quietly, his face unreadable. I said Julian was exaggerating, twisting things to make me look bad. The lawyer said calmly, "The facts are her own words." I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. Julian spoke only once. He said, "I'm not here for revenge. I just want peace for me and for Noah." The way he said peace felt like a door closing. The mediator nodded, then read the recommendation. Custody and property awarded to Julian, separation finalized. I couldn't breathe. He stood, thanked the mediator, and walked out without looking at me. I wanted to scream, to make him see I was the victim now. But the room stayed quiet. Only the sound of papers shuffling, like a slow applause for the man who'd finally learned to stop listening. The house is empty now. His clothes, his books, even his smell are gone. On the kitchen table lies the final decree, with both our names printed neatly. I thought I'd feel angry, but all I feel is quiet. My mother doesn't answer my calls anymore, and even my co-workers avoid bringing him up. I keep telling myself it was only a joke, that he overreacted, but the words sound smaller every time I say them. At night, I sit in his old chair, staring at the space where his computer used to be. I whisper, "You knew I didn't mean it." The silence answers for him. Maybe he did know. Maybe that was the worst part, that he finally stopped trying to make me mean anything at all. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.